Drugs, Crime, and Politics, brought to you by Drug Policy Forum of Texas, here at the Houston Media Source. Drug Policy Forum of Texas is one of the oldest and largest drug policy reform organizations in Texas, so you can reach them at www.dpft.org. Tonight our guest is Farrukh Shamsi, who will be talking about methadone maintenance programs, especially here in Houston, and we'd like to welcome him.
Thank you.
So thank you for being on the show. Before we get into tonight's topic, I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the news that's going on. UT's Terrell Brown tested negative for drugs recently. A year ago or so, Brown was charged with misdemeanor drugs and weapon possession. He was arrested with backup linebacker Tyrell Gatewood and former Texas linebacker Aaron Harris early Monday morning. Brown was charged with misdemeanor drug and weapon charges, so he tested negative for that. In Uruguay, Montevideo, police in Uruguay arrested 27 people suspected of trafficking drugs to Europe. They seized a record 770 pounds of cocaine, and this happened actually Wednesday. More cocaine happenings in the news in Houston. Investigators found more than 200 pounds of what appeared to be cocaine inside a northeast Harris County home, where a man and a woman were found actually shot to death. So apparently they weren't after the coke even at all, but the authorities said that that amount was actually worth about $1.6 million. Events that are happening around here, on a lighter note, September 23rd, the Houston Normal Chapter will be holding their fall benefit event at Super Happy Funland on 2610 Ashland Street. They'll be showing the movie Hamsters, directed by Dallasite Mike Henning, which features Woody Harrelson, Gatewood Galbraith, interviews with Ralph Nader, and the Lakota Sioux Indians in their quest for being able to use hemp as an industrialized crop. Speakers will include Gatewood Galbraith and possibly Mike Henning, the director of the video. So we hope to see you out there. And in also current news and requests, I guess, Americans for Safe Access, one of the largest nationwide medical marijuana-based organizations, is conducting a nationwide research study and is looking for participants in the U.S., any state at all, patients who for some period of time did not use cannabis because of the federal government's claim that it is not medicine. There's criteria and limitations which you can find at safeaccessnow.org. It's ASA's main website. Some of the criteria include: did this patient not consume marijuana for some period of time within the past 5 years because the federal government said it had no medical value? Also, can this patient demonstrate through verifiable medical records that after beginning medical marijuana use, it improved their health or relieved symptoms with documentation from a physician or a medical clinic? They're looking for anyone who fits into this category, who is able to demonstrate their health improvement after beginning use of cannabis through medical records or through a physician's correspondence. So please visit Americans for Safe Access at safeaccessnow.org. And in Houston, the Houston Chronicle actually had a great article yesterday from the Washington Post, which was a bold plan for an exit strategy from the failed war on drugs. So actually, Seattle had a conference recently on exit strategy from the war on drugs, which, involved reductions in crime and disorder, improving public health, and better protection of children from the harms of drugs and wiser use of scarce public resources. So if you'd like to check that out, that was in Tuesday's Houston Chronicle, September 5th. So I would like to introduce our guest here today. This is Farrukh Shamsi, and we'll be talking about methadone maintenance programs, which I understand that you actually run one. So
that's correct.
And so, how long have you been running this program?
Well, the two programs that we have in Houston, we've had since 1984, And we have a location that's on the north side of town where 610 and 45 come together. And then on the near west side of town, in the Spring Branch area, we have another location there. And we originally started these programs back in the early 80s simply because of the fact there was a demand, because there was a state-funded program that had been closed down by the state, and not for anything wrong, it's just the funding had stopped. And so the patients had nowhere to go. So there were just a few programs that were available at that time, and ours was one of the ones that opened at that time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, generally methadone maintenance programs are government funded.
That's correct. We do have now, there's the VA program, of course, and there's another program that's in the city of Houston that's also funded also. A couple of others are funded through one source. They'll fund another one. But the majority of the programs, in particular in the Houston area, are actually private.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, and so what prompted you to start this program?
Well, actually, I didn't start it. My father is a physician, and he's a psychiatrist, and he actually started these programs in the early 80s. He's semi-retired now. And what kind of happened, I guess, was that in the late 80s, as I was completing my MBA, my Master's in Business Administration, I thought I was going to go out into the corporate world. But I was asked to come into the private world here, and my father said, why don't you just try it out and see how it goes? And so I've been there ever since.
Oh, wow. Okay. Cool. So that's actually pretty interesting that you saw that there was a need for this, and then you decided,
Yes, definitely. And you cannot be in this field unless you have some type of compassion for the clients. And they're called clients or patients. It really depends on your program. We surveyed our clients, and they like to be called clients, so that's what we call them. And you have to have compassion, sympathy for the population, because they are helped by these programs. And the main thing is that they are not using street or any other illicit drugs when they're on these programs.
Definitely. Well, one of the main methadone maintenance programs have previously been, from what I perceive, somewhat controversial. But the fact of the matter is, and I've got some statistics here that I can list off, it will generally benefit society in that you are keeping people who would previously turn to alternative criminal routes in order to obtain, said drugs, or be costing society through their health insurance or the health industry by misusing or abusing these drugs. And so you're turning them over into a program where you're actually having a maintained level of control.
Correct.
So, and when I talk about helping society, mostly we're referring to people who are like through government-based programs. But from what I understand, you said that you have different types of people that come.
Correct. The type of people that come to the program, they run the gamut. They can be lower income, they can be higher income. But the nice thing about it is when they do get into a program, before they get into the program, they're really not what you would call productive members of society. They're having to steal from you and me, or hustle, or looking for their next drug of choice. But when they get on the program and they stabilize, and they're not using any street drugs or having to go pharmacy hopping, basically, they do become productive members of society because they're working, they'll hold a job, or even if they're a homemaker, they are able to take care of their children properly and be involved in their kids' activities. So, and then they're not stealing from you and me. In fact, there have been studies that have shown that the areas where methadone programs are, and a lot of the clients tend to live in those areas because it's convenient to them, the crime rate actually goes down in those areas.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah. That's totally, I don't have the actual statistics for it in front of me, but one of the first places that methadone maintenance was used was in Europe and in Holland, I believe, and there were studies that, of course, crime rate, robberies, violent crimes dropped dramatically.
Correct.
Whereas and unemployment kind of dropped. So, yeah, it's definitely a good thing to look at, and it's an obvious measure of harm reduction. Right. So this is what a lot of people are pushing for. I just want to throw some statistics here out at you. According to the Office of National Drug Control Policy, there are over 900,000 heroin-dependent individuals in the U.S. alone. The DEA data predicts that heroin is increasingly available at purer levels throughout the nation, and NIDA has cited an alarming increase in the number of young people using heroin. Do you ever see, other than adults, that there are a lot of young people?
Yes, actually the growing population coming into the programs right now are those persons who are 18 to 24.
Oh, really?
And but this young population is not using heroin, I mean, to a large degree, maybe 30 to 40%, whereas in the past it used to be something 70 to 80% of our admissions. Right now what we're seeing is a majority of these are using prescription pain medications. It's a cleaner drug.
More readily available.
More readily available.
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's some pain management physicians out there who are very readily prescribing these pain pills. But then, not to say there are some who are very, adept at what they're doing. They're taking care of their patients properly. But unfortunately, there's a large number who are not, who basically make it very easy for someone to get a prescription.
Right. There is a huge abuse, I think, of people, kind of trying to work the system like that. And so you're seeing a lot of people who are not your usual heroin or other opioid-based, but
Correct.
OxyContin and Dilaudid and things
That's
like that.
That's correct. OxyContin, Vicodin, and Lortabs. These are the three at the top. Lortabs and Vicodin are at the top. The TV show House, I don't know if people have seen that show. There's a new show on Fox that comes out. And the main character, he is dependent on Vicodin.
So kind of even glamorizing.
Exactly, but he's functioning. They show he's functioning normally, but in actuality, if you're taking a large number of Vicodin pills on a daily basis, it's going to be hard to function normally.
Right. So in that, we hear about, so they have it on TV shows, and we hear about Rush Limbaugh and everything. We think people can totally function normally with this type of abuse, but.
Yes, that's correct. But now, if they're in treatment, and Rush Limbaugh did get treatment. I don't know what type of treatment he got, whether it was outpatient detox, inpatient detox, or whether he may very well be on some type of maintenance medication. But when you're in this form of treatment, whether it be methadone or the newer form, which we're using Suboxone now, you will function normally. No one will know that you're taking this medication because, generally speaking, it works in the background and allows you to function normally.
And I want to jump ahead and talk about Suboxone because apparently that's something that's quite, it's pretty new, right, using buprenorphine?
That's correct. Actually, it's been out a little over 3 years. It's been approved by the federal government.
Okay.
We started using it just a couple of years ago with great success. It's been very beneficial, especially it allows us a little more flexibility. Methadone has very tight restrictions from the federal government as far as coming into the program on a daily basis in the beginning and then gradually increasing your visits. With Suboxone, which is a much safer drug, what's happening is that patients don't have to come in as often. They can come in less frequently. They still take the medication on a daily basis, but they don't need to see us so often.
Okay, and Suboxone, how that works is it's kind of has its own tighter withdrawal process.
That's correct. What happens is that methadone is what's called a full agonist, and Suboxone is what's called a partial agonist. And just in layman's terms, what that means is all of us have receptors in our brain. And when you're taking, street drugs, Vicodin, what have you, those medications, those opiates, are sitting on those receptors. But they don't stay there a long time. And when they fall off, that's why you need more. You constantly have these peaks and valleys. Well, what methadone does is a full agonist. It'll start sitting there, and then it'll put you in a steady state. So you don't have those peaks and valleys. You feel fine. But because methadone is so strong, being a full agonist, it's harder to get off of. And people do get off. And that is the ultimate goal for many, but for some it's maintenance also. With Suboxone, which is a partial agonist, this is partially binding to those receptors, you can gradually decrease your dose and get off a lot easier because it's easier for it to come off of.
That's very. That's a great way to get off instead of
But there's a disadvantage. Why aren't a lot more people on Suboxone? Yeah. Because it's very expensive. It's new. It's very expensive. Methadone has been around in methadone maintenance programs since the 1960s. Vincent Dole and Marie Neischwander came up with it as far as being part of treatment protocol. Suboxone is a fairly new drug, and so it's very expensive, so it's going to be a couple of more years before the price starts coming down.
definitely. And I'd like to take this opportunity to invite anyone to call in if they'd like. Our call-in line, if you have any questions, of course we're live on September 6th, 2006. You can call us at 713-807-1794. Yes, excellent. And it looks like we have a call now, so I will go ahead and take it. Hello.
Hello?
Is this Dean?
Sure, teacher.
Okay, I think that was a prank call.
I think somebody wanted a pizza.
Yeah.
Call the wrong number.
Not Domino's. But, okay, well, anyone with a serious question, please do call in at the number listed at the bottom of our screen here. So we'll go ahead, and so we were talking about Suboxone, which is kind of a new route of prevention, and I hope that kind of drops in price the more that other types of buprenorphine are released.
The federal government is fully behind it. That's why they've relaxed some of the regulations. I shouldn't say relaxed. They've made it a little easier for us as far as the regulations are concerned. The regulations are the same as methadone, but they are more readily giving us exceptions so that people can come in less often because they're very much in favor of it. It's very popular. It's a class 3 narcotic versus a class 2, which is what methadone is.
Right.
So it's definitely a safer medication.
Right. And how does methadone compare to something, say, not just efficacy, but the concentration strength, I guess, of methadone compared to heroin or buprenorphine?
Okay. The difference between, let's say, heroin and methadone, chemically, if you were to break them down, you'd see that they're exactly the same, except for one thing. And heroin has what's called a carbon chain, which is a string of carbons. That is what gives you the high. Methadone is similar in chemical structure, but doesn't have that carbon chain. So although there's a rumor or a misnomer out there that methadone can cause a high, it doesn't actually cause a high. If you get too much, yes, it can give you a funny feeling. But if you're getting an adequate, correct dose, you should not have any side effects as far as that's concerned.
Right. Definitely. So I want to throw some more statistics at you before we actually start talking about...
Throw away.
Okay. Well, out of the 900,000 people, or less than 1 million people that are actually dependent on heroin or other opioid-based drugs, it says that only 210,000 people, and this was give or take, I saw a few different numbers, are actually treated with methadone on any given day. Would you say that this is, and how does this vary across the country? Would you say that Texas is pretty good as far as methadone maintenance programs goes? Or? Yes,
and your statistics are absolutely correct. What's happening is that, unfortunately, you would think that, methadone is out there, it's very readily available. Why aren't people going into treatment, just as you've said? There are a number of states, believe it or not, that do not allow methadone treatment right now.
Ooh.
And we are here... in the year 2006, this is not the 1960s. There are some states that are way behind as far as this is concerned and looking at the efficacy and the research of it. So there's a number of states that don't allow it, don't have it. There are some states that have just started it very slow to come on board. So you're in a large state, let's say, and it's in one corner of the state methadone is available, but you live in the other corner, so it's going to be hard for you to get treatment, especially, let's say, if you're working or living there already.
Right.
Texas is very good about methadone maintenance treatment. The state is very supportive of us. We have a very close relationship with them. We meet with them regularly. That's the regulators, the deputy commissioner, everyone. We meet with them regularly. They're very open to what we're doing and very supportive.
Cool. Well, I mean, the numbers certainly don't lie, so I think that's very cool that Texas is pretty progressive on that note. So let's go ahead and take a call and see what they have to say. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Yes, I just tuned in just now. I had a question.
Go ahead.
And does this new medication have a role to play in the treatment of chronic pain, or is it merely intended for the cessation of heroin usage?
Actually, Suboxone is great for any type of opiate usage, and it's especially working great for persons that have become dependent on pain pills. I'll give you an example. Let's say you've had some type of major surgery and you start taking pain pills that were prescribed to you. But unfortunately, even after the pain had subsided, you kept taking those pain pills because you became dependent on them. You did not have the will, or you were not able to, for whatever reason, get off. This is where Suboxone works great. What happens is you will be switched. You will from those pain medications over to Suboxone. Suboxone will be the only medication you are taking. We'll stabilize you on Suboxone, we'll raise your dose, stabilize you, and gradually decrease your dose and then try to get you off. Generally speaking, you're looking at an outpatient program of 4 to 8 weeks. I will caution this, that Suboxone is habit forming, but not so much as some of the other drugs that are out there. That's why it's easier to get off of.
Right, and you can actually have the gradual step-down process of,
Correct.
of diminishing the dose. Thank you so much, caller, for calling in. Okay. And also in that, I think Suboxone, buprenorphine, is previously used as an analgesic itself.
That's correct. Buprenex is what it was called, and it was used as an injectable analgesic is what it was used for originally. And again, these are opiates, so they can work in some fashion depending on how concentrated they're made. But Suboxone and Methadone are not designed specifically for pain management or to stop pain. You will see forms of Methadone used, for example, in some cancer patients. Some hospitals will use it. But on the whole, they are actually used for treating people who are dependent on opiates.
Okay, definitely. So you wouldn't really see anyone in a hospital using, for some kind of pain stability?
Not normally. Now, in some cases, they have used it. Like I said, with cancer patients and some other type of specific cases, they'll use it on a short-term basis. But on an extended basis, you're not going to be seeing it. You're going to be seeing some other type of medication used.
Okay, cool. And let's see. You were talking about some states are pretty good about having these programs and some states are not. I'm not actually sure which states don't have them, but I was reading that Louisiana, from even the 1990s, was one of the first ones to have a methadone maintenance program, and it was the famous U.S. clinic, the Shreveport Clinic, which actually the local law enforcement, city, even state were completely supportive, anywhere from the clinics administering them to pharmacists to police officers and judges, because they realized that overall, across the board, studies have shown that more than 70% of people who have enrolled in these programs have actually eliminated or reduced or stopped their criminal activity within the first year of using it. So before you can address that, I guess let's go ahead and take this call. Hi, caller, you're on the air.
If you want to discuss the war on drugs, you must look at our war on intoxicating liquors and its 14-year history. The Constitution has endured, but it's also been successfully challenged by one and only one amendment, directly and productively so, the 21st. When we went from prohibition to decriminalization to the mixed messages that we have today of taste great and don't drink. How can we do drug policy better than that of intoxicating liquors?
Okay, well, thanks for your question, I guess. That's a pretty broad question. How can we do drug policy better than alcohol? Just understand that it's so much less harmful than alcohol. If I don't understand how alcohol can be so legal and tobacco when they kill so many more people than any, even prescription pills have killed more people per year than non-prescription pills. So, and drugs, over-the-counter drugs kill more people on an annual basis. Of course, I don't have any numbers here in front of me, but when we start realizing that and, go for a more harm reduction-based society as opposed to a prohibitive society, then I think we'll be on more of the track that it's an actual working policy, a drug reform policy. So thanks for your question, caller. Did you have anything to add about that?
No, we, of course, are dealing strictly with drug treatment here, dependency, but notwithstanding that, we do have a large number of people who, when they come in, they are actually dependent on alcohol also. Mm-hmm. And that just goes with the territory. Unfortunately, a lot of people who start using drugs, and I'm talking about illegal drugs, I'm not talking about persons who got addicted to pain pills after some type of surgery or something. But generally they'll start small with smaller drugs, or alcohol is the big one. they'll abuse that. And so what we'll find is that not only are they using heroin and other opiates, but they're using alcohol at the same time.
Now, do you find that these people actually gradually stop the other drugs and stop using alcohol with the methadone?
Yes. Now, what happens is that, see, we can't just give them medication in our programs. You have to give them counseling also, and that's very important. They have to go hand in hand. But we do find over a period of time when they continue treatment that, yes, we do see a diminished, I shouldn't say a craving, but a diminished desire to use other drugs. Just simply because when your life starts getting better, whether you're working or, like I said, becoming a productive member of society, there is no incentive for you to continue to abuse other drugs when your life is getting better.
Right. And, I mean, I don't know if, but I'm just kind of curious, what kind of success rate do you find in typically in these types of programs?
Well, it depends on how you measure success. Our measurement of success, first off the bat, is when we get someone to the program, we stabilize them, that they are not using anything else but the medication that we are prescribing to them. So that means they're not using any other opiates. They're just taking the medication that we're giving them. That is a measure of success for us. The second measure of success, you can have someone who continues on a maintenance regimen and also is able to become gainfully employed or, a productive member of society. And I keep using that phrase over and over.
Yeah, well.
But that's exactly what happens. And then our whole economic system benefits from that also, because that person becomes a taxpayer also. But then there are those who, what they choose to do is over a period of time, they'll gradually stabilize and then start tapering off and give off. That is also a measure of success. Someone who also becomes basically what you would call drug-free. Some people focus on drug-free is the only measure of success, but for us it's not. That is one measure of success. If you become drug-free or not taking Suboxone anymore, not taking Methadone anymore, that's great. That's great. If that works for you, and if that makes your life great, that's fine. But if you require an extended period of time in a maintenance regimen, that's fine too, as long as you are still doing the things that you're supposed to do.
Totally. So that is a good measure of success. I'm kind of curious, do you find that patients, are they ever able to self-administer, I guess, or do they always have to come into the clinic, during the end of phases of withdrawal?
Great point. What happens is that when they first come into the program, unfortunately, they're required to come in on a daily basis. And that's just part of the regulations. And that's just so we can monitor them and make sure they're doing all right. But gradually, over a period of time, we will decrease their visits, but they will be taking medication on those off days. So they are going to be getting medication from us. For example, in the beginning, if they're coming in daily, Monday through Saturday, except for Sundays, we don't open on Sundays, they'll get medication for Sunday. And then they'll get medication, for example, if they start coming in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they'll get medication for the other off days. And finally, we do have people who have been here for an extended period of time who basically just come in once a month.
Oh, wow.
And they'll get a 28 to 30-day supply.
Oh, that is very nice. I think we have one more caller. Caller, if you can ask a question pretty briefly, or we'll address it after the break. Hello?
Hello.
Hi. I guess if you could ask your question pretty quickly, or we'll address it after the break. Welcome to Drugs, Crime, and Politics.
Yes, very briefly, technically speaking, why would a patient or a doctor want to prescribe the new medication instead of methadone? I mean, are there any advantages?
Yes, thank you for the question.
Well, the big advantage that we have is that it is a partial agonist, so it's easier to get off of. The disadvantage we have, unfortunately, is that it's a lot more expensive right now. So there are less people in the economic spectrum who can afford it.
Right. And does insurance cover any of this?
Unfortunately, what happens with insurance is, unless you have something through your employer, they usually have a very small cap on substance abuse treatment, or they don't have any coverage at all for it.
Right, which is what I suspect. Yeah, as we were describing earlier, buprenorphine will partially bind with the actual receptors that, you respond to for opioid treatment. So it's it's kind of like the nicotine patch, which had like the step down.
Right.
We all saw that icon of the person stepping down off the nicotine patches.
Correct.
So we are going to take a short break here, and we will join you back again afterwards, we'll be talking with Farrukh Shamsi about methadone maintenance. We invite people to call in. This is from the Houston media source. This is Drugs, Crime, and Politics. And we look forward to seeing you back from the break. So, yeah. Oh, it actually worked out.
This week in drug war history, August 28, 1964,
okay. I feel like
the Beatles are introduced to marijuana. August 28, 1995, the World Health Organization publishes WHO Project on Health Implications of Cannabis Use, a comparative appraisal of the health and psychological consequences of alcohol, cannabis, nicotine, and opiate use. The original version, not the official one, states, "There are good reasons for saying that the risks from cannabis would be unlikely to seriously compare to the public health risks of alcohol and tobacco, even if as many people use cannabis as now drink alcohol or smoke tobacco." September 1st, 2003. In an effort to save over $30 million in general revenue in 5 years, Texas implements a new law that requires mandatory community supervision instead of incarceration for first-time drug offenders. A judge guilty of possession of less than 1 gram of a certain controlled substance or less than 1 pound of marijuana. This is Steve Nolan for the Drug Truth Network.
Houston Media Source, sponsored by Drug Policy Forum of Texas. And we'd like to welcome you back to our interview with Farrukh Shamsi of the, is the actual name for your clinic?
Yes, Texas Clinic.
Okay.
And they can visit us on the web at texasclinic.com also.
Okay. So texasclinic.com. It's one of the actually privatized methadone maintenance programs. And they've got some of the cutting-edge medications available and counseling available. TexasClinic.com.
That's correct.
Okay, great. So I guess we have a caller before we start in again, so let's go ahead and take that. Hi, caller. Welcome to Drugs, Crime, and Politics.
Hi. I have a question for your guest. I'm wondering, what are the drug treatment centers doing to help educate, mostly for school-age kids, because there's a big movement to prevent kids from smoking cigarettes, etc., and it just seems to me that if you could stop the problem before it begins, that would really be an effective thing. But I don't see that happening in America. As a matter of fact, you know, if you count how many people are dependent on drugs and you were to count them as people with diseases, and the Center for Disease Control was to count them, they would refer to it as an epidemic.
Right.
So I'm wondering why, you know, the campaigns just say no, and this is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs. We know that that was ineffective. But what about the organizations of treatment centers lobbying Congress to put some funds into the schools so that there's really an aggressive campaign to stop the problem before it begins? That's my question.
That's an excellent question. Thank you so much, caller, for calling in. And after you address this, I'd like to say something a little bit about that.
What you said about prevention, that is great. Starting off with school-age children and educate them. Our goal amongst the programs that are in Houston and, of course, across the state, because we are part of a statewide association, we do want to do community outreach and educate the public. But educating the public is important, but even more so, as you said, it's starting off in grade school, actually, and telling kids about what the future holds and what they can do to prevent themselves from getting mixed up in these type of things. You are absolutely right. I agree with you. There should be more lobbying of Congress and our representatives, that there should be funding available, made available, because we don't get any, frankly speaking. We have to do it on our own with our own money. That there should be funding available for us to be able to do this, for us to be able to go out and educate inside the schools. Yes, I realize you see these nice advertisements in magazines and newspapers, etc., which is fine. But how many kids are reading those magazines and newspapers? We need to be able to go inside schools, whether it be we or anybody else, a group, need to be able to go inside the schools and at least, I would say, once a year, sometime during the school year, have a program on drug abuse and ways not to use drugs and signs of drug abuse, and if you have a friend who's using drugs, etc. But I think that should be done. I agree totally.
Totally. And I'd like to make the point, of course, focusing on the children is, at a young age, and educating them about drugs is the way to go. But unfortunately, we do have a program but it's sponsored by, previously it was the DARE program. And in response to that, actually, now DARE has been cut from government funding because studies have shown that it's not only is it ineffective, but it's counter-effective in that people who had gone through the DARE program would typically be more likely to use drugs. So, but still, after those studies, you know, the government hasn't realized that scare tactics and misleading information and just prohibitive information without actually educating people doesn't really work. You know, just saying no doesn't really work because, you know, kids are always going to ask why and they're always going to be rebellious about it. There are several programs and organizations that strive towards a safety-based education. Dr. Marshall Rosenbaum out of San Francisco has a reality-based safety-first education program that is available for schools if schools are interested. Unfortunately, the government will actually pay the schools to, you know, do their program, so of course that's going to take precedence. Also, you know, what we have now for kids is, you know, in magazines and television ads, the ONDCP is running these above the influence and Partnership for a Drug-Free America ads, which, you know, quite honestly, they're getting entertaining. I saw one the other day, which I thought was kind of funny, kind of off point, because I thought it was more, before they said what it was for, I thought it was an ad for, you know, stop using alcohol as opposed to recreational drugs or something. And even today I was reading the Government Accountability Office just released a report that said the ONDCP ads are still not effective and are once again counter-effective. And just, you know, kids are going to be rebellious and curious. You know, might as well educate them with the proper information and exactly what this, that, and the other drugs do to you, how it makes you feel, you know, what kind of dosing, as opposed to just don't do it. Because, of course, that's what's the first thing they're going to do is run out and try to find X, Y, and Z drug.
And this point that we're making, I didn't want this to turn partisan, but I was on the preliminary platform committee of the Texas Democratic Party recently. And this is something that I personally made sure that was put in there, and that has to do with drug treatment and also but prevention also. And the main thing that's being, the thrust of the party that's being put in this platform is that prevention is very important, and prevention at a young age is very important. And what the caller said and what you have said, I think that if all the forces come together and continue to, that this will benefit everyone in the future.
Definitely. And there's a lot of organizations that are you know, pushing that kind of educational system for prevention and education. Drug Policy Alliance is a great one, which Drug Policy Forum of Texas is kind of a model after them. And Students for Sensible Drug Policy, of course, is a great avenue if you are a student, or Educators for Sensible Drug Policy, I think is another one, but I'm not sure. But Students for Sensible Drug Policy is a great avenue to explore the avenues of drug policy reform for students. So, yeah, once again, we've had some great questions today. If anyone wants to call in, it's 713-807-1794. To me, you know, we can sit here and talk about programs all day, but I think the average watcher is not going to understand methadone. So I kind of want to ask you some basic questions.
Sure.
And see what your expertise opinion is. So.
As expertise as it can get, right?
Well, I've been in the field for quite a few years. So here's some questions that I just saw from people who are kind of, I guess, interested in a certain program. One of the interesting ones was, is methadone harder to kick than heroin?
Harder to kick. I think actually heroin would be hard to kick, just as any other opiate is. And the reason for that is that we talked about these peaks and valleys and the opiate receptors. What happens is that when you use heroin, you'll get high, and it feels great temporarily. And then you have this big crash landing. Well, when you have this depression or crash landing, guess what? You need to use some more to get going again. Right. So the cycle continues. And when you're going down and you're having that crash, you're having all the symptoms of withdrawal. You're having runny nose, diarrhea, just, you know, lack of appetite. A lot of symptoms are showing up. But the only way you can feel better is to use more heroin. So you're going to use some more, and you're going to feel great temporarily, and then you're going to start again. The thing with, and so it's very hard to get off of heroin because you're in this constant cycle. Or you can quit cold turkey and just lie around for 3 or 4 days and feel terrible. And it's very, very hard. It's very tough.
Does not sound pleasant.
Exactly. Whereas with methadone, what you can do, it's a measured medication. You can gradually step down off of it. Some people that are on 80 to 100 milligrams, we advise them to gradually, 5 milligrams a week or every 2 weeks, go all the way down. And once they get down below 30 milligrams, go down 2 milligrams a week. And we want their last dose to be 2 milligrams. And then we'll have them off the program.
Okay. And how long does that typically take to go from a cycle of, 60 to 100 to...
It just depends on the individual. Because everyone is different. And sometimes people try to use a formula and say, okay, this is the formula, this is what you got to use on everybody. But we're psychologically and physiologically, we're all different from each other. And our metabolisms are different too. And the way we reason is different also. So the person that's, for example, that's on, let's say, 80 milligrams, this person may be able to go down 5 milligrams a week. So you can do the calculations, over a period of, let's say, 10 weeks, they can go down 50 milligrams.
Oh, wow.
But then there will be someone else who can only go down 5 milligrams every 2 weeks just because they can't do it, because for whatever reason, or they have some stress in their life going on. We don't recommend someone decreasing their dose when they have a major stress in their life. It's very difficult at that time if you want to do something. And coming down off the medication is a stress. It's not a huge stress, but if you already have something going on in your life, it can add to it.
Is there ever a situation where someone is, gradually decreasing on a pretty, linear scale or something, or an average scale, and then say they have a huge stress in their life and they actually request or need an increase in the dose?
That is very common. And the one point that you brought up is that this does happen. People are generally, their first time around going down on their dose of methadone, are generally going to have a period in time, whether it be maybe around 20, 30, or 40 milligrams, where they are going to have to stop for a few weeks and just stay there, or have a slight increase in dose, maybe 5 or 10 milligrams, and restabilize and then start their way back down again. And that may be, like you said, it may be a stress in their life, or it may just be physiological, or just something happens, they don't feel good, and they need it, or they're not sleeping well at night, or something's going on.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's interesting. I was wondering, what we've been talking about, well, of course, everyone's different, and so for everyone, each treatment is going to last, a different period of time. But in general, is methadone maintenance something that's a treatment for life?
It depends on the individual. You brought up a good word, the word maintenance. A maintenance medication can be methadone, it can be Suboxone. It can be heart medication, it can be blood pressure medication, it can be insulin. These are all maintenance medications. Now, the reason methadone has been stigmatized in the past is because you are dependent on this medication. It is habit forming, as well as Suboxone, which is not as much so. But you have to look at the benefit of the medication, that it actually helps you gradually decrease your dose and get off of opiates.
Okay, yeah, definitely. And so well, this is kind of an odd question because it says, does methadone interfere with good health? Well, I guess the end result that you'd like to have is good health because you currently don't have good health.
Correct. Actually, the persons that come into the program are generally not in good health. Mm-hmm. They have not, some of them have not been very hygienic. Some of them have not, been taking care of themselves, have not been eating properly. So they're having multiple problems. But the good thing is once they stabilize and they get on maintenance, they can improve their health, improve their diet, improve their eating habits. And that's what we generally see. We actually see people gaining weight when they get on methadone. And what's interesting is that in the first few weeks that it starts happening, you think, oh my God, this medication is causing me to gain weight. Well, it's not. It's just that you have not been eating properly, and all of a sudden you got your appetite back. And when you get your appetite back, you get it back big time.
Yeah. Well, an appetite suppressant, so totally. Well, okay, here's a question from an anonymous caller. Wanted us to address the aspect drug war has. I think earlier you mentioned that, there is a proclivity for pain doctors to kind of just, write off a prescription and not really look at the overall patient, and there's a potential for abuse within that system. I guess they wanted to address how doctors can prescribe the proper amount of medicine to handle pain and what they do for fear of getting their license pulled.
Okay. That's a very good question. Pain management physicians, the ones that are trained in pain management, most of them are very adept at what they do. They can prescribe the proper amounts of medication and then gradually take these patients off the medication. That is usually not a problem. Unfortunately, there are a large group of physicians who are not trained in pain management.
Now wait, let me interrupt you here. You say trained in pain management. Is this a specific type of physician? Is this a specific type of clinic?
Yes, pain management is actually a specialty. Okay, you can, for example, you can be trained in psychiatry, you can be trained in dermatology and so many other fields of medicine. Pain management is also a field that you can receive training in. So there are physicians who have received training in pain management who are very adept at what they do. They understand it, and they also can see if someone is becoming dependent on pain pills or has a problem, that they can refer this person out. Now, you also have a large group of physicians who are not trained in pain management, meaning that they're not specialized in this. Their specialty is something else. They may be a family practitioner by specialty. They may be an anesthesiologist. They may be an OBGYN. They're going to be something completely different, but they're running a pain management clinic.
Oh.
Okay? They are prescribed, then what they do is they're prescribing medications indiscriminately. And so what happens is the patient is coming in requesting more and more medication, more prescriptions are being written. Finally, the person becomes so dependent on those pain pills that the physician doesn't know how to deal with this person. They're scared. All of a sudden, I can't write you any more prescriptions, and they'll cut them off cold turkey.
Right.
Okay? This person is taking 30 to 50 Lortabs a day, and he's being cut off cold turkey. But he's not getting it all from this physician. He's getting it from others, too.
Right.
Okay, so he's doing pharmacy hopping, basically. Now, what is being done about this? The Texas Department of Public Safety, their triplicate prescription section, they have an investigative section. In fact, one of their speakers was at our last annual conference. They have a hidden investigative unit. They do go into programs, pain management programs, to see exactly what's going on. And they are going after physicians who are not doing this correctly. Again, there are a nice group of physicians who are doing this correctly the way it's supposed to be done. Unfortunately, there are those scrupulous types that they are going after. And what happens is when they catch those physicians doing wrong, then they're also reported to the State Board of Medical Examiners, and basically they're shut down.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it takes a couple of years to get them shut down.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never knew that there was some kind of physician watch program.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Especially for potential of abuse. So, is that typically what you see, that people have, come after surgery and, have all of these prescriptions, have been pharmacy hopping and then get cut off?
What we're seeing right now is 60 to 70% of our admissions into our outpatient program right now are those persons that have become dependent on pain pills because of some type of past experience, whether it be back pain, some type of surgical experience. That is why they're coming in, because they can't stop taking these medications.
And this is actually something, that's a good point. This is a card that you have in your office, and it's something that the client should ask themselves. Do they rely on prescription opioid pain medication to get through the day? Some of the questions that they would ask themselves is, have you ever felt the need to cut down on your use of prescription opioid pain medication or heroin? Have you given up activities to use prescription opioid pain? Are you spending more time on activities to get prescription opioid pain medication? Or have you ever used these medications or heroin or opioid pain medication despite negative consequences? So that's a pretty good synopsis of...
Right, you can look at yourself and ask yourself those questions. And if those questions are coming true, you may have a problem and you should seek help.
And it says, for more information on opioid dependence, visit www.opioiddependence.com. So that's a neat little card. And, okay, so... I guess there was one interesting question here that I thought had a pretty counterintuitive answer to me. Is it safe to take methadone during pregnancy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. There have been a lot of studies on this. There were there were some scare stories in the past. I will say that any patients that we have had on methadone in our program that have delivered to full term, and practically all of them have, their babies were born normally. What happens is that actually during pregnancy, they used to think that the mother would have to have a decrease in dose because it might be harmful to the baby, but that's not true. What actually happens is that they actually have to increase their dose of methadone because a lot more is crossing the placental barrier. So when the baby is born, most of them will not have a problem. A few of them, if they do have a problem, they will give them some type of paregoric or some medication. It's just for a couple of days in the hospital and gradually wean them off. But normally, nowadays, we're not seeing that. We're just seeing normal, healthy babies being born without any problems.
Wow. Okay. So you said it actually will pass the placental barrier, and there's no effects on the...
No, because it's not enough to harm the baby or cause any problem with the fetus. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, to me that was completely counterintuitive. I was just kind of blown away by that. So don't be afraid to have children.
And you know what's funny? You're bringing up the populations that are coming into the program. What we're seeing with Suboxone is a very strange phenomenon. I shouldn't call it strange, but it's a very different phenomena. We are seeing the suburban housewife coming into Suboxone. This is someone who takes their kids to soccer, is involved in civic clubs, or is involved in PTA meetings, etc. But she's spending a large part of her time at home also watching a lot of TV. And what she's doing while she's watching TV is taking a lot of pain medication just to make herself feel good.
Well, this kind of reminds me of the case of the old-time laudanum and, people becoming addicted to that. So that was also an opioid-based drug.
And it could be food, but it's not. In this case, it's drugs.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go ahead and take another call. Hello, caller. Welcome to Drugs, Crime, and Politics.
Yes, I was rather shocked at hearing your guest characterize chronic pain patients as being some type of, sick people who are like pharmacy hopping or getting their medication from illegitimate sources. And also, I believe he mischaracterized legitimate chronic pain clinics and their physicians thereof as being, somehow shady people. And the second part of this question is, are you yourself a physician, sir? And that's my question.
That's a good question. Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, let me say that I think you probably missed part of the conversation. One is that the majority of pain management physicians are doing a very good job, and they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And I do not characterize people who are having pain management or in pain management and getting prescription medications for that as in any way or form as being part of a drug-dependent population. There are some people who become drug-dependent, and those are the ones that need help. A lot of people who are in pain management do not, and they're doing fine. And so I am not characterizing them. And actually, like I said before, and you may have missed that part of the conversation, is that pain management physicians that are trained in this field are doing a very good job and generally do not have any problems. In fact, they are able to recognize if there is a problem and are able to properly refer that person out. The people that I'm talking about are maybe those physicians who have not been trained or are simply running a office just almost like a pharmacy where someone is just getting a prescription and walking out, And those are the cases that have been brought up by the Texas Department of Public Safety, their triplicate prescription section. I have not brought those up. They have brought them to our attention. Secondly, yes, you're absolutely right. I am not a physician. I have been in this field for almost 20 years. I'm an administrator. So I see all kinds of physicians. I'm there during the intake. I see their progress. I see them through their recovery. But you are absolutely right, and let me make this clear, I am not a physician.
Right. You just started this program almost 20 years ago, and this is I'm not sure if it's one of the few privatized clinics, but it's certainly, it's a privatized clinic in an industry that certainly needs some sort of growth. Correct. Also, addressing the issue of chronic pain, we were referring to the minority of people who do who do fall into that path, and the disclaimer was it's the minority of people in chronic pain. And the fact of the matter is, there are certain types of chronic pain that aren't even affected by opioid use, and so I think doctors can run into that problem where they're trying to, well, this is totally my speculation, I could be getting myself into trouble, but there are certain types of mechanisms of pain that aren't affected by and aren't alleviated by opioid pathways. So to a certain degree, perhaps, physicians or patients will try to overcompensate, in fact, when it will never help. And so I think there are certain pain clinics, and this is, where medical marijuana would come into play, because medical marijuana has been shown to alleviate the effects of neuropathic pain, which isn't alleviated by any type of opioid use. Neuropathic pain can occur spontaneously, can occur after injury or after certain diseases, physiological diseases. So perhaps if more pain clinics could prescribe medical marijuana or could openly talk about it as a valid resource or as a valid treatment, then we would have a reduction in opioid use itself. So that's just my speculation. But in general, some of the topics that we really should have gotten explored more effectively, methadone treatment overall reduces criminal behavior. And in privatized clinics, you wouldn't see that so much, just not criminal behavior so much as people becoming more productive members of society. But, in government programs.
Well, methadone, is generally speaking, is not that expensive. Mm-hmm. So when I say that we have different economic levels of persons joining the program, I really mean that. We have people who are in the low-income stratosphere as well as those in the higher-income stratosphere. And those persons, the lower-income people, middle-income people, higher-income people, they all have benefit from this. We do get people into the program who have had a criminal past or may have just gotten out of prison or on parole, who do need assistance, who do need help. And or if they are having some type of criminal activity and they just have not been found out yet, this is a way for them to stop that criminal activity, because there will not be a need for them to be involved in, for example, stealing here and there if they are on, when they're receiving methadone treatment, and they're able to secure a job and again, become a great member of society.
Oh, totally. And just to throw out another kind of juxtapositioning of numbers here, methadone maintenance treatment costs on average about $4,000 per patient per year, whether it's, I guess, government funded or privately funded. And if you transpose that to how much, if the person were to, I guess, be incarcerated or something, that costs $20,000 to $40,000 per person per year. So it just makes sense to kind of to have people living a healthier life and and reducing.
I agree. When you're about to be incarcerated or you're before the judge, it'd be nice if they were able to prescribe treatment for you rather than send you to the jail.
Right. Yeah. Because incarceration really cannot be the answer, especially with our Houston prisons, which are overcrowded and not a lot of fun. So we really need to wrap this up here. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Thank you so much, Mr. Shamsi, for joining us. If you'd like to find out more information, visit opioiddependence.com or texasclinic.com. Okay. For privatized methadone maintenance. We'd like to thank Drug Policy Forum of Texas for sponsoring the show, and Houston Media Source, and you, the viewer. Thank you for your excellent calls and your attentiveness. So join us 2 weeks from now, Wednesday at 8 o'clock, same bat time, same bat channel, and we'll see you then. Okay, cool. So this is the part where they...
present policy of drug prohibition is hopeless. It is hopeless. It will never get better. Literally, victory today is being defined as slowing down the pace of defeat.
We ought to listen to science and medicine when it comes to whether marijuana or any other substance has a medical benefit.